All right, we're talking everything hormones today in this video. What's been working for me, what hasn't been working. I'll give you some references to things you can research yourself. But I brought this up on Instagram recently and I had a lot of people, we had messages going back and forth. Everybody's symptoms, everybody wants to hear more about it. This is something that I have actually been wanting to talk about for quite some time, but I was kind of waiting to see if things leveled out, could I wanted to give you some good information. So I hopefully will stay on track. I do have some notes here. I have my hormone levels I will share with you because I know everybody kind of wants to know. Even though we're all different, it just helps sometimes to know what other people are doing, what they're experiencing. Why I'm bringing this up is it has a lot to do with how I show up here. For instance, if you don't see me for a while, it's usually because I'm not feeling that great. Like I'd mentioned on Instagram, I've just had low energy all of a sudden, which before then I had been feeling great. So obviously things were going well. You see me here more on YouTube when I'm not feeling that great, have low energy, low motivation, which I'll talk about. Those are two major perimenopause symptoms for me. Then it's like it is so difficult to show up. Like I can function in everyday life, trying to show up here, be creative, do things, on the to-do list because trying to be on and, put on a good face and all that, like it's not always easy. So this video hopefully is not going to be negative at all because I don't want to do that because there are a lot of positives that I will share with you. Basically, what I had intended this video was going to be like kind of positives and negatives I've seen after starting hormone replacement, which yes, I did start last year because I'd kind of run out of luck with all the natural approaches. And I had seen something once that really resonated with me, and maybe it will with you guys. Because I was in some different groups, with naturopathic doctors, and people always talk about try this, do all this, but it's like you can't balance what's no longer there. And that really stuck with me. So maybe it will help you guys too. So let's just start from the beginning. I started, again, looking at my notes here, I started the last week of July in 2023 with an estradiol patch of 0.025, which is the lowest dose, and 100 milligrams of progesterone. My symptoms were getting worse, and my FSH showed that I was heading towards menopause. So let me actually just show you those ranges because, again, I know people like to know those things. And even though everybody is so different, and again, I'm just kind of saying things as I think of them. I admit I am not having a real clear day today. The brain fog is not bad, but that is a huge symptom of mine too. I know y'all can relate. The, brain fog, not sleeping. Like I was up last night from, I don't know, I went to the bathroom at 3:30 just to kind of get up and reset. I don't always get up, but I thought, let me get up. I got a little hot, not terrible. So I was up, I would say at least 30 minutes to an hour before that. So anywhere between 2 and 3, which, is the normal time zone. Seems like we wake up and then I'm up for a bit and then I fall back asleep and I sleep really hard. And then of course you don't want to get up in the morning, which from genetic testing, I actually don't clear out melatonin that well anyway. So then you have that whole cortisol melatonin balance. Like my cortisol is not rushing in the morning like it should be to get you up and out of bed. Then when you're waking up in the middle of the night, that's like a whole other layer. I mean, it's all kind of rabbit holes you could go down. But anyway, so let me tell you, my graph was the typical perimenopause graph that you've seen if you watch any videos, read any books, of how it literally is a roller coaster. That's why it's so hard to predict, is because it just goes up and down. Like that particular day you draw blood, it may be high, it may be low, because that's pretty much what perimenopause is. It is fluctuating. Your cycles are either getting longer apart, shorter together. Mine got shorter together. So it's literally, they got shorter, closer together, I should say. So it was like, I felt like I only had a few good days out of the month. And I remember saying that to you all, like in a Get Ready With Me or something several years ago when I was explaining just how I was starting to feel then. So that just shows you, as you've probably all read, these symptoms can start years before And you might not tie it to hormonal changes, which I did not, because you typically think, oh, I'm going to have hot flashes, I'm going to skip periods. That did not happen to me. So my estrogen was always fairly high, which it can be both. Everybody, you hear all this estrogen dominance talk, which a lot of people, especially in perimenopause, tend to be estrogen dominant because your progesterone drops so low. You can be both though. Your estrogen can be high and your progesterone can be low, which was my case in a lot of times. Not always, but my progesterone was typically very low, which is one of the very first symptoms most of us start having. That's why the moods, the sleep, all that, your progesterone starts dropping even before your estrogen will, sometimes years before, which was my case. It affects your mood, which it did me again in sleep. So let's just say a year ago, like it was July of 2023. My FSH then had been 13.8. My estrogen was at 161, which back earlier in that year was at 424, which was one of the highest it's ever been, which was kind of scary high, because you don't want that balance to be way out of whack, or that's how you end up with endometrial cancer possibly. So I know some doctors only want to treat symptoms. I don't agree with that. I think you need both for a full picture. And luckily, my doctor's that way too. She likes to see labs. And number one, she asks how I'm feeling, which I'm thankful I have a good doctor. She's about like 4 years older than me. So she's totally been through what I'm going through, which is fantastic. So I know I'm lucky in that way. We'll talk about some resources and doctors later on though. My progesterone then was 7.8. October. So this, she wanted to see me a few months after. I usually go 3 to 6 months, depending on what's going on with me, if we've changed anything. So in October, my FSH went to 103. So that was a key indicator that, even though it was starting to lean that way, it had not even shown that I was anywhere near menopause. But then in October, it did. And my estradiol, even though keep in mind, I was on that low dose patch, they don't register anything under 25. So basically, if it's less than 25, like, you don't hardly have anything. And then my progesterone had dropped to 1.6. So again, pretty low. I got them tested again January of this year, and my FSH was 78.3. Estrogen was 26, and progesterone was 2.4. Then I just got them tested again. I'll just finish this out. In August, the beginning of August, my FSH was 18.8. So it went back down. And that would show I'm still cycling. I thought, oh, I'm going to make it to the 1 year mark. I'm close. But 2 months prior, I'd had spotting like 30 days apart. So it was very on cycle. And I was like, okay, just watching, see what's going on. And then sure enough, I had a cycle. So I did not make it all the way 1 year. That would have been this month. And I remember that because it was towards the end of our Mediterranean cruise trip. And it was literally like, oh, you turned 50? Let's shut off the light. Because I turned 50 last year. Within a few days, I am turning 51. Might even be 51 by the time you see this. I don't know. Could be even on my birthday. So that's where I'm at. And again, these symptoms, as most of you know, can start up to 5 to 10 years before, which was the case with me. I mean, I was thinking, am I depressed? Am I burnt out? Am I this, that? I mean, researching everything because the signs were not clear to me, because I was still cycling very regular at the time. Even though they were getting a little shorter, it was still very, very regular. And again, I wasn't having those typical hot flashes or night sweats or all the thing. My weight had been slightly going up, gaining weight around the middle. That was a key sign. But for me, my main things were mental. Like the brain fog was crazy. And just extra PMS signs, because again, that lowering progesterone. So, you're just feeling that way kind of all the time. Luckily for me, it wasn't too bad. Like there was always a joke with my mom and dad that he's like, I don't know how I'm still alive during that time with my mom, and I hear this from a lot of other women, like she had those typical symptoms, like just break out in a sweat. She was like pissed off all the time. And I've heard women say that like after pregnancy too, like when the progesterone does not go back up as quick as it should. That's why you hear, postpartum depression, all that. It says hormones are not going back where they should be. She was just mad all the time. time. Now that I can look back thinking, oh, maybe that's why, mom was so crabby, sometimes in my 20s, 30s, because that was happening to her. So, and as far as, speaking of like ages and all that, I was not going to be surprised if I went through this early, because I was one of those, I started my cycle early. So typically, and of not having a child, all that, no pregnancies, that would kind of lean towards you're probably going to go through menopause quicker. But I'm not out of it. I'm still cycling away. I think that's what's kind of messed me up recently, is that it's starting to go, back towards that typical perimenopause. Even before, when I was feeling good, like the hormones were keeping me kind of even. So back to dosages and all this, but I'll get to what has helped. I have seen some really good benefits of it, and I want to share that with you. Again, I know I'm kind of all over the place because, again, I'm not thinking super clear today, and I'm just trying to get things out as I forget, because even though I have notes, I've still not like wrote down everything, because there are some negative and some positive. I did move up to the next phase patch in spring of 2024. So from the lowest dose to the next highest dose, the 0.0375, and now I'm on 0.05. But I have to say, the brand of patch matters. At least it did with me, and I had to dig super deep on the internet to even find other people that said this, because I was like, am I going crazy? Well, sure enough, when I asked my doctor, she's like, oh yeah, it can totally make a difference, because she just calls in estradiol. Your insurance and the pharmacy, your insurance will pay obviously for the generic for most of us here in the US, and the pharmacy, whatever they can get is what they give you. So I originally had the Dottie patch, because usually everything's the generic for the Vivelle Dot, which they don't even make that one anymore, which is odd, but they make all the generics, of course. So the Dottie I did not like. I felt very again, for me, it seemed very sporadic. Like sometimes it seemed it worked, sometimes it seemed it didn't. Well, sure enough, when I dug in and found a couple other brands that people said they liked, I switched the Mylan patch, which I think that's pretty common. A lot of people are on that one, and I have to say that has worked so much better for me. However, because we had went up to the 0.05 in the Dottie, because it was kind of sporadic, as soon as I switched brand names, I mean, I got like a huge dose of estrogen and had all the side effects. I had spotting, I had breast tenderness, I was like, oh God, this isn't good. And everybody says, that it'll go away, which I'm sure, but that always freaks me out a little bit. And you don't feel that great. So what I did is cut a quarter of it off, because I'm like, well, I'm going to see, maybe I now only need 0.375, but this is getting in there better. Because I do the patch, by the way, because I have a factor V gene mutation, and I just feel safer that way. My doctor didn't seem to think there'd be a problem even doing like the combination progesterone estradiol pill, but for my peace of mind, I didn't want anything going through the liver that would cause an extra issue, possibly with a blood clot. Even though I'd been on birth control half my life and never had an issue, didn't even know I had the factor V at that point until many years ago. But that's why I do it, and it gives me more peace of mind. And I know a lot of doctors like that just for the safety profile. So I cut that quarter off and had been using that for a while, and it was good. And I slowly started noticing, though, that I might need to go back up, especially once I got used to that one. I just said spring. I think it was maybe a month or two. Honestly, I don't remember when I went and started just using the full dose of the 0.05. Because again, like I said, I'd cut a quarter of it off. It was great working, and then it seemed like it wasn't. And then as soon as I started doing the full patch, it's been fine. Now, because I was starting to have recently some sleep disturbance again, getting hot a little bit at night, just feeling most of the time great, but a little off. To me, from everything I'd researched, it seemed, and from my labs, of like my progesterone balance maybe was still a little low. And that's what I'm big on. I want that balance to be there, because my mom had endometrial cancer, which I know that's not hereditary, but that is in the back of my mind. And I had actually had some issues with what you can during perimenopause of your lining thickening. And so that's in the back of my mind of keeping that at bay. I know some people are on the breast cancer side of freaking out about things, and I don't even want to get into the whole women's health initiative thing, that they've pretty much walked all that back. And again, I will list some resources that y'all can do your own research, but I like to do a lot of research because that helps me have a really good conversation with my doctor. And I think she appreciates then that I'm educated in things. She's not overwhelming me then when I bring up something. Because I think a lot of doctors, one, they don't know about menopause. They will freely admit, at least the good ones, that they were not taught anything hardly in med school about it. They've had to go out on their own from their own issues, their parents' issues, friend, trying to help other people. She did change my alternating nights of my progesterone, but I mean, a week of that, like we didn't know if 100 was enough, but some people can be sensitive to progesterone. So we were alternating nights of taking 2 and then 1. That did not work. I immediately had symptoms. Like, I slept great on those nights I took it. I mean, like, slept like a rock. But I immediately got like breast tenderness and felt like moody, weird. Like, it was obviously too much for me. So I don't know if we discussed compounding pharmacy, maybe upping the dose just a little, or maybe I need to take like a supplement that will just give me a little boost, or maybe I'm going to have to cycle it again. Like, some people, if you're still having regular cycles and you need the progesterone, maybe you're just going to have to cycle it. But let's get to some positive things, okay? Because I feel like, honestly, I'm just rattling. I hope when I edit this, I can piece it together. Are you guys at least getting something out of this? I think sometimes you guys just want to hear symptoms and what people were going through. My brain fog, I'm going to go back to like when everything was working just a few months ago, and really even after starting it. That was one of the first things I noticed. My brain fog was almost completely gone. It was great. No joint pain. That was something I had never heard of. Now I've been like educated on all the benefits of estrogen and things that it helps, because I was like everybody else, probably skeptical, not wanting to take anything if I didn't have to. But then your quality of life starts getting really bad, and you start finding out there's actually probably benefits, and you could maybe ward off some health issues later down the road. Like, dementia is in my family. And thankfully, heart disease isn't, but osteoporosis. My mom is petite. She doesn't have osteoporosis, but leaning that, like, she definitely has some issues with that. So those are like the big 3 diseases that we get after menopause. And it's like, I want to ward that off, especially the dementia. I mean, it's amazing to me finding out we have so many estrogen receptors, which, if you think about it, it all makes sense. But if you've never heard it, we have so many estrogen receptors all over our body and in the brain. The no joint pain. I mean, I was having hip pain. Pretty much all went away. Like, I mean, it's been crazy how much that went away. My facial skin somewhat tightened back up a little bit because I still have it, and I kind of have my dad's profile. We do not, like, this is totally my dad. From the side, like, we might have like a thinner face and an oval, but the jawline and stuff here is, especially as he got older, like, it's never been real defined. So I just kind of, that's genetic for me. But I was starting to get like all this, and I still have it. I mean, I'm in my 50s now, or God, that sounds crazy. But, I would like it to be a little more tight, but it actually has gotten better. Just skin overall has gotten a little bit tighter everywhere. And it's kind of crazy because I was noticing like arms, stuff like that. And I've never had like real defined arms, even when I was younger. But that improved. Obviously, my sleep improved. I was no longer waking up in the middle of the night most nights. I've always been one of those, I either sleep really good or I don't. It's kind of, and I've experimented with what I'm eating, drinking, not, and it kind of, nothing really seems to make a difference. So no night sweats. Thankfully, those were never really bad, but enough like they'd wake you up. I'd be hot. I wouldn't be like drenching the bed, thank God, but I could concentrate and like complete normal tasks in my brain, not like all over the place. That is, when I'm having an off day, that is still the biggest struggle for me, is the motivation, concentration. I can't concentrate very long. Like, it's like all of a sudden we all think we have dementia and like ADD. It's hormones. And I can only attest to that because once starting the hormone therapy, that went away. So it's like I'm replacing what was diminishing And then now, because, think about it, you didn't have that before. Maybe you did. Maybe you're someone that's always had that. But I didn't have it before, and now I had it. And then you replace what's missing and it goes away again. But again, with me, I'm wondering if I'm not going back on the roller coaster, where before I'd kind of evened out, and we'll see. But okay, I had more energy. That was a huge thing. So much more energy. It was great. Oh, no more dense breast tissue. How many of you, after your mammogram, which that's like a whole other topic I could talk about, how many of you, after your mammogram, like I've been getting them since I was 40, you have to go get an ultrasound? Oh, you have dense breasts. How about just give me the ultrasound to begin with? That's what I would like. How about instead of concentrated radiation, that then you're going to then send me to an ultrasound, I'd rather just have the ultrasound, because you're going to get more information from that anyway. Who knew the progesterone? Well, I shouldn't say who knew. A lot of people probably know, but that has really made a huge difference in the dense breast tissue. It's been great. And just to feel normal most of the time, that was a huge thing. And then, like I said, wanting to ward off potential, like, heart disease, osteoporosis, dementia. The negative, no weight loss. Matter of fact, I've gained weight. So that is very distressing because of what I do on here. I try on clothes. I show you what to wear. I can buy something, I am not kidding, buy it, try it on, it fits. And by the time like I'm going to wear it somewhere, maybe a week or two later, or I'm going to do an outfit, try on in a couple days, or I'm going to take it with me on vacation the next month, it may not fit. And I am not joking. And that has been the biggest struggle. The body composition is totally changing. I have had issues with hormone fluctuations. And I'm someone like, if I gain 5 pounds, it looks like 20, possibly. That's just my body makeup. But having that, like that spare tire around your hips and your middle, and then the bloating and the upper stomach, like that's just issues I've not had. Sure, if I always had weight in my butt and my hips and all that, yeah, that doesn't bother me. That's just my makeup. That's how my body shape is. Bloating and the weight gain has been crazy. And like I said, here's what's bad. It's like when I switched to that brand of patch and it seemed like, oh, I'm getting what I need. The brain felt good. The energy was good. The weight gain started trickling up though. Now, if I was somebody who didn't do this, wear clothes and show you clothes and worry about how I looked, wasn't on the internet, I might not care about it somewhat. However, I'm a jeans and t-shirt girl, and let me tell you, most of my jeans don't fit. On a good day, I can get them zipped and buttoned, but they may be squeezing the hell out of my stomach. Just the truth. Not all of them, but it's like all my favorite ones I can't wear. So it's like you get one benefit and then one negative, at least for me. I have some questions actually for you guys. I'll talk about a couple of resources, but I will list them all in the description box, okay? Just because I list somebody as a resource, that doesn't mean I agree with what they say 100%. I don't find I probably do that with any doctor, any medical person. So hopefully this is more of a conversation we're going to go back and forth about. If you want to DM me on Instagram, that's fine. Leave your comments below. We'll keep going, but I have some questions. Do you find, those of you on the patch, because I know a lot of you are, do you find where you put it matters? Like, meaning, do you put it on your lower abdomen, kind of like where your ovaries are? Do you put it on the side of your hip, on the back, top of your butt? It's all below your belly button, I know, and you rotate. Sometimes I swear, I think it matters where I put it, and I'm wondering if I don't get more absorption in certain places. It could just be all in my head, but let me know that. And then what has helped you guys the most with like the bloating or weight gain? And this is where it gets crazy because, all the information all over the internet about like eat your ideal body weight and protein, do this, eat, lift weights. I realize all that, but to me, it's like a mindset thing. And I feel like I didn't have to do all that when I felt normal and hormones were great. So why do I have to do all that when I'm replenishing the hormones, which were the initial problem? Why am I having to do all that work? I'm not saying I don't have to do any work, because I understand we want to lift weights to make our bones strong. Muscle helps burn fat. I mean, I get all that. I know it. We definitely want to keep our bones strong. However, I feel like that's no different than extreme dieting, just the opposite way, like the extreme calorie counting, that just is too much food noise for me. Like I can't be weighing all my food all the time and tracking all the macros constantly. Am I getting enough protein? I do that. That is like, that messes with my mind. Like, I don't like that. It's too much noise. It's too much. I already have every day you wake up like, oh, do I feel good today? Do I not? Like, that's just an added stressor to me. I want to get up and not think about anything. You just, those are the days that are great. You just go throughout your day. You don't think necessarily about what you're eating, what you're doing. You can just go through life. That is great. I want those all the time. I don't have them all the time, but when I do, they're amazing. Do you guys take testosterone or DHEA? I've read so much about DHEA and how it can help, but depending on how you metabolize things, it might actually go a different pathway and could hurt. Obviously, testosterone is not FDA approved for women, so it's hard to get. You can get it in different places. Most of the time, you're probably paying out of pocket. So insurance isn't going to pay. Anyway, I just wonder, because my testosterone, I didn't let you guys know the numbers. I mean, on paper, all my numbers look good, but I just don't know if they're optimal. You know what I mean? Like, could you just, I feel like a lot of it, I just need a little, I'm missing a tiny little bit. That's what I want to know. Overall, starting the hormones was great, and I do not regret it. However, I want to make sure I keep everything in check so that I am not adding fuel to the fire with anything. You know, that is the whole thing, is you want to keep things balanced. Because if they're not balanced, that's how you get into a lot of issues. I have always kind of had a hormone problem since I started my period. I would probably say in junior high, 7th, 8th grades, when I really started having issues. So that was a big thing back then. Obviously, nobody knew anything back then. It was all put you on birth control, which I have to say, for a lot of my life, that was a lifesaver for me. Cleared up acne, which I don't know if you can tell, I have chin acne again, which is hormonal, but I've been, I just got off the cycle. So I don't know, a couple weeks ago. But I've always had hormone issues. So that is always something in the back of my mind, to make sure things are staying balanced so that as I'm getting older, I'm not having health issues with that imbalance. I know this is a lot of information. Sometimes, it's just good to hear from somebody, like what's working for them, what's not. If you are one of those people that, I don't know, sometimes I have a hard time believing the people just started HRT and they just felt amazing and dropped weight, and just like that, everything went back. You people are the lucky ones, let me tell you. That is few and far between, though, because most of us, it's not that. But I have to say, a huge improvement from what it was, because I didn't tell you guys, my doctor and I, before I started progesterone, which I'd actually been on years ago, and then went off because I don't think it was really helping. It might have been hurting at the time. We did the progesterone cream. Now, I've heard different things about that it helps, that it doesn't. I felt like it did sometimes. I've heard it's too big of a molecule to actually be absorbed properly in the skin to actually benefit. So I don't know. But just to let you know, I did do that before anything else. And again, I was in that gray area for a long time where I didn't, you need some help with things. Like, usually progesterone is one of those first things to start alleviating some symptoms. Anyway, I hope you guys found this helpful, or at least found you're not alone listening to somebody else. But I wanted to share too, so you knew what was going on with me when I don't show up. That is my biggest issue, is how it affects me mentally. Again, my day-to-day life, it doesn't really affect. I can do things. Sometimes I won't be as social. I don't want to do things, maybe that I always do, but here, showing up for you guys, that's where it's been a struggle. So anyway, leave me your comments. I'm happy to do more videos if you want. Again, I will leave all the resources. Most of you have heard about a lot of these people, but I looked at some really good videos, read books. I'll show you like certain videos, certain podcasts in particular, I think. But I do find you can get little snippets from everybody that is good information. So keep that in mind. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.